So in this video, we're going over the 4 things that make change in your life impossible. We're gonna go 4, 3, 2, 1. And I think this video will be not only just like inspiring, right? And be like, oh, okay, I'm seeing things in a different way. Oh, this is why I'm watching this kind of content or journaling or doing the meditations or working with coaches, right? But it'll also be really practical. Simple stuff that you can do today to really start to feel a shift. Think about the last time it was really easy and effortless for you to make a shift in your life. For most people, it's a transitional event. This is what it's called. It's when people go out of high school into college and they feel like a totally different person. That's the place to reinvent yourself, right? Or it's when people move states, move cities, or when people get a new job, get married. These big life events really help to speed up this new version of you and this identity, right? You following this? So why does that happen? Is it really the event? Maybe, but I think it's this. The real thing is the environment. The environment starts supporting a different identity for you. A personal story here for me, I grew up gloomy, doomy Seattle, Washington, right? Spent like 28 years there. And then I just had this internal calling like, hey, why don't you do something new? I was feeling a little stagnant, feeling a little like dusty, right? And so I just decided to pack everything up with my girlfriend. We made the decision to move here to Scottsdale, Arizona. Polar opposites in the weather. Now I got sunburns instead of double pea coats and whatnot to go outside. But man, that one shift, when I shift my environment, you know how much easier it was to create the 2.0 version of myself, to start living in that? And the reason I did that, to go a bit deeper there, is because I grew up there in Seattle. I was born and raised. So I'd be like driving around, right? And I'd drive past my high school and it would just conjure up all these memories of like high school. Or I'd go to a restaurant and be like, hey, here's the place I went when I was in college, because I went to a local college there as well. So I just felt stuck in that environment, right? And I wasn't really that person anymore. So I literally, to create the new version of me, packed up and moved, switched environments. It was so easy here in Scottsdale, Arizona, to grow my business to levels it has never been before, to get a friend group that's super supportive of like-minded people here, right? To just make all these different shifts, right? Because I switched my environment. I wasn't stuck there anymore. Now, the same thing kind of happens for people on the opposite end, right? Take this example. People who are trying to become a new identity of like, let's just say they're addicted to alcohol or drugs, right? They check themselves into a rehab facility. And those work because you got nothing there except sobriety, right? And so they're in this rehab facility, but then what happens when they get out? And they say the hardest part is going back to that environment, right? Because it supports their old identity, not their new one. Are you following this? So it can work both ways. So for you, this makes change impossible is that same old environment. Now, maybe it's not as drastic as literally moving states, but if you're in a position right now and you're really ready to shift things up and shake it up, who knows? You're in your early 20s or whatever, move apartments. Feel like you've been stuck there for a while? Maybe this is the call you need. It's so much easier to change a lot of things when you shift that one environment. More practical stuff, maybe for you, this is getting a new job. This is doing something that will change that environment, and watch your 2.0 self, which is what I call that new identity, that future self, really start to come together a lot faster. So practical stuff for you. Maybe it is time, if you're in your early 20s, change apartments. Easy. You really want to make some big moves? Move out of that one. Don't sign the lease. Go to a new one, right? Even if it's the same level, it's just a different environment. I would do that all the time in my 20s. I would shift apartments, and every time I'd feel myself like motivated again or reinvigorated, right? Shift gyms, shift jobs, get out of one, go to a new one. Maybe move cities. Whatever this is for you, take it how you want. Just understand that environment supporting your old identity makes it really impossible and hard, I would say, to shift into the new one. But Clark, I don't have any supportive people around me. Well, you need to find them, okay? And that's one of the coolest parts too in our metamorphic coaching program. I'm working with 60, 70 people. That's just a tight-knit community. And 2 times a month, we do these community live Zooms. Me, you, every single person in there. And we're unpacking ideas like this. And then you're unmuting, you're sharing your insights, right? You're hearing from other people, super diverse group, all ages, all walks of life. That is one of the coolest parts, the members say, because guess what? It's the environment that you need to reconfirm that 2.0 you identity. Number 3, this is where it's impossible to change or shift into the 2.0 version of you because you're defined by your past traumas. We have a whole playlist down below I'll link on shadow work, right? And I define shadow self. There's a lot of definitions out there. It's just anything that's holding you back. Okay, the old you, the old stories, the 1.0 you, all right? If you never examine that, all right, it makes it really hard to shift into the 2.0 you. When you go back to past experiences, maybe it's a breakup, maybe it's childhood, maybe it's a job, maybe it's someone didn't support you, right? Whatever it is, not important here. When you go back, your memory right now, it's not absolute. Okay, we think that our memories are just 100% accurate, right? And if we saw it and we experienced it, how we're feeling today, that's the truth, because that's my truth. That's my experience. So how dare you tell me otherwise, right? People literally get in fights over this stuff. But when you look at neuroscience, memories are not like that at all. They are not 100% word for word accuracy, right? They're not even close. In fact, a lot of times eyewitness testimonies in court get thrown out because they're just not true when they look at this, right? So why am I telling you this? Your memories about your past, it's more accurate to say they reflect how you are in the present than in the past. Because that past version of you is not you. You're you right now. But you're reconstructing the memory in your head of how you think it happened in the past. But if you rolled the tape, right? That's why they do it in sports. Roll the tape. What do you mean that was in? That's not in. Let's look. We have proof. And then a lot of times people are wrong, right? Even there. It's kind of like a game of telephone, right? Did you ever play that back in the day? Elementary school, you're all sitting in a circle, right? One person starts a secret or a phrase, right? And then you whisper it to the next person. And it goes around 27-year-old kids, right? 8-year-old kids. And by the time it gets to you, it's a fart joke. Always 10 out of 10 without question, right? That passing around is really analogous to how your memories work. Every time you think about it, you talk about it, it gets either more ingrained and more distorted. This can work to your advantage or to your detriment because you're going to keep telling the same story and reinforcing that pattern, right? Or you can do things like coaching, like therapy, like journaling, like meditation to kind of play the telephone game on yourself. And that's really what you do. That's meaning making. So powerful. You're literally shifting the meaning of everything, right? Of your old stories, of your old conditioning, of everything, of your past, right? And when you do this every single time, you just examine it from a third-party point of view, kind of looking down on it, it gets weaker and weaker and weaker. And that's the benefit of doing stuff like shadow work or coaching or whatever, okay? You're like, why do I do that? That sounds negative, Clark. And, the law of attraction community has told me to only manifest the positive. Easier said than done. They don't understand how neuroscience works 9 times out of 10 when you're watching a video by someone. And it's something that sounds great on paper, but in actuality can lead you down a worse direction. If you have stuff that's unresolved in the past, it makes it impossible for you to move forward in the future and in the present. In this way, like the unresolved past holds you back. I give the analogy all the time of the sandbags on a hot air balloon that's holding you down, right? And keeping you stuck, like the dead weight. If you never address these, no matter how much you inflate this balloon up here with the YouTube videos and the books and the coat, all this stuff, right? These sandbags, if you never release them, they're gonna hold you on the ground. And so that's really what you do when you examine the past. You're changing the meaning of it. You're changing the memory, just like that telephone game. You're releasing the sandbags. And this is why in our metamorphic coaching program, if you want to apply for that, it's down below. It's just what I'm doing like pretty much all day, every day. So that's why I talk about it so much. And it's so cool seeing people literally go through a 6-week shifting experience of where they start here and they come out here and they're like, holy cow, I'm so glad I did that, right? And they're raving and they're having all this success, right? Because that's what we do in week 3. We literally examine those sandbags that are holding you on the ground and keeping you stuck. When you release it, how much more energy are you going to have, right? How much more presence are you going to have? How much less stress and anxiety, right? So don't get trapped there. Shadow work playlist in the description below after this video if you want to deep dive on that rabbit hole, give you some cool techniques there as well. And you can apply for our coaching down below as well. That was pretty much number 2 as well, that most people have the identity that's based on their past. You want to know how I know? Because answer this sentence. I can't because blank. Whatever you fill in that blank, that's your limiting belief. That's a juicy little nugget for you to work through right there. That's a good little story to go to and re-examine. And I think here it's super important to not identify with the past version of you, I call this the 1.0 you, but to focus on the 2.0 you and where you're going. In other words, don't focus on who you are, where you're going, right? Because if you just focus on this, like, where am I going, where am I going, where am I going? Just like a car that focuses on a telephone pole, like, don't hit the pole, don't hit the pole, don't hit the pole. And then what happens to that car? It rams into that telephone pole, 70 miles an hour. It's the only one in the desert and they die. It's literally what happens, right? You see that all the time on the news. Like, how the heck did they, in the middle of the desert where there's nothing, run smack dab into a pole? Because the person was just so focused on where they're going and don't do it, don't do it, don't do it, and they're stuck. In the same way, don't focus on where you're going, because you're just going to feel like you're stuck in the familiar past. Focus on who you're becoming. And that's how you get into the 2.0 you. And that's what evolution's all about, right? At the root, it's about growth, adaptation. I was reading a book and it said that back in the Galapagos Islands, when Charles Darwin was coming up with the theory of evolution, right? Of how animals adapt and overcome, that it wasn't the strongest species that survived. Okay? You'd be like, whoa, evolution, right? The strong beat out the weak, right? Not what he found. It wasn't the fastest species that survived. You might think like, oh, well, if they can avoid the danger, right? And they're really agile and they're looking for threats and they move around, right? Maybe they'd survive. It was the most adaptive species that survived, such as life, right? Such as you. So when you adapt to things and shift into this 2.0 version of you, you got a better shot at getting there than just being stuck in the familiar past, right? And if anything, that's the last one right here, the subconscious patterns that are going to keep you stuck there. You're like, well, consciously, I don't want that. That's stupid. Why would I run into something I don't want? Why would I recreate a past I don't want? It's because most of what you are is, again, the subconscious level. A great way to think of this, and I just thought of it the other day when I was driving around here in Arizona, we're by the Grand Canyon. And someone told me, I don't know if this is true or not, you can post it down below if it is, they're like, Clark, that used to be a river. And over like hundreds of thousands of years, or it used to be underwater or something like that, right? The water grooved out the canyon. And again, whether it's true or not, that is how rivers are made, right? And that's how some canyons are made, or plateaus or whatever, right? That the water just going over and over in that pattern, that same pattern right there, slowly erodes, right, the ground, and it gets deeper and deeper and more reinforced. So the water flows faster, more of it flows, and eventually it's impossible to change. It's already gone. That's kind of how your subconscious mind works and your thoughts and your beliefs. That the same ones that you're thinking in the past, those just groove down more and more and more until eventually they're so deep, yeah, it's hard to make a shift. It's like a good way to think about this in your life. If I pick up my big crystal that I'm flexing here that, was a couple $100 for production value for you, and I just like drop it smack dab, pick it up, and I drop this sucker right here on my toe. You know what my first response is gonna be? Holy shit, that hurts so much, right? It's because that pathway of like pain, expletive, boom, fires like that. So how do we shift this? Your subconscious mind is grooving in the patterns that you don't want, or patterns that are going to be kind of predictable if you keep moving that direction. What you do is you create your 2.0 version of yourself, okay? And you shift into it. And an easy way to do this, right, we don't have much time left here, but I want you to take away something. So if you just did this one thing, your life would be 10 times better in 10 years, okay? It's just basing your future on today, because that's how you get it, right? So let's just take the example of money. If you just based every decision today on what would my future self be proud of financially, right? And I'm going to set my future self up for success. Your financial situation, don't you think, would be way better in 10 years? Absolutely. But why aren't most people saving money right now? Why are most people 2 paychecks away from bankruptcy when you look at the numbers, maybe even worse now since 2020, right? In quarantine and everything like that. It's because they think short term, right? They don't think about their future version of themselves, right? And so they just spend more than they make. They spend it today, they YOLO, right? They live for the moment. It's almost having the discipline there to set your future self up for success. Now, that's one example there, but in relationships, think about that. How would you set your future self up for relationships? I say it every video. We talk about relationships. Best advice you can ever get. Stop trying to look for the right person and start trying to become the right person. Because 10s attract 10s, don't they? When you're a 10, you're going to attract better people into your life. Not just physically, with an Adonis physique and a six-pack abs, right? That's not what I'm talking about, although that might help, right? That might help you get in shape if you're setting yourself up to attract a better quality person, like physically wise, someone in shape, right? But also like emotionally, vibrationally, intellectually. Walk away with that one mindset piece. And again, to recap here, the 4 things that are going to keep you stuck and make change or shifting into the 2.0 you impossible or very, very hard is these 4. That the environment supports your past identity, not your future one. I told you that story of moving here, of maybe you should get in a different environment, try new things, get a new job even if you can, right? And that's really the secret when you shift your environment to really changing fast. 3, most people defined by their past traumas that keep you stuck in the programming, that hold you those sandbags back down, right? 2, the identity based on your past, right? That's the narrative. And the solution to that is basing it on your future self. And then 1 is your subconscious patterns are grooved in like that water, right? In your past and not the future. So what you need to do is watch some of our videos on subconscious reprogramming, things like breath work, visualization, meditation, journaling, coaching, therapy. All these things are phenomenal for that to help regroove it, right? And know that this will change over time to your future self and setting that future self up for the 2.0 you today and how you want to show up. You'll merge with it and you'll be there and you'll be like, holy cow, here I am. I have arrived. If you want to know more about our coaching program, it's down below. Would love to speak with you. It's not for everyone, but if you're a right fit for our community group that we talked about there, and you want to work one-on-one with me for the 6 weeks, and then beyond, you're in the community, right? So you get lifetime access to this. It's pretty cool. There's an application down below and a video where you can learn a little bit more about what identity shifting is, and we go way deeper into all 4 of these. Okay, so that's below. Till next time, thanks for watching. Stop settling, start living. See ya.